everyone. My name is Armando Perez-Carreno, and today we are talking about automations, boring tasks, repetitive tasks, and everything you might dislike about these boring activities and how you can get rid of them. If you don't know what we do, we help businesses automate processes, just make them more efficient, save a bunch of time. So today we are just going to be talking about a few of the different things that you can do as a business owner to recover some of that lost time that day in and day out you or someone on your team is likely losing on these repetitive tasks. So if you are here on any of the different networks, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, welcome in. If you're somewhere else, I don't know how that happened, but here we are. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me well also, because we're streaming to two different platforms simultaneously, and they're each streaming to multiple platforms. So we'll see how it goes. In any case, I'll try to keep some of the chat open here to see if I get any notifications down here. So boring tasks. I talk about boring tasks a lot because that's what I hear from a lot of our clients, that you are running your business day to day, and there are some activities that, whether you like them or not, you have to do them. And some of those might include data capture. So perhaps you're getting calls or you're getting form submissions somewhere, and those form submissions arrive somewhere else, perhaps in an email. This is very common. And then from that email, you then have to put that into your CRM or whatever other system you're using to keep track of your leads, of your contacts. And then from there, you might do some sort of pipeline and get to work with people, and many other things might follow. So from the acquisition part of things, lead capture, to then eventually going through the whole process and actually doing the delivery, there are a lot of different tasks that one does that might just feel repetitive because you're constantly doing them, the same thing again and again. And in some business, that is the bottleneck. You might be getting a lot of leads coming in, but you don't have enough time to reach out to them all. And then by the time you get back to them, they're already talking with someone else. So there are a few things that you could do to streamline that part. But then there are many things you could do with just the day-to-day activities in your business that, again, might just be either wasting time or using time in a way that you could be taking more advantage of that very important human aspect to do things that are really requiring of a human, and let some of the other parts be automated. So we don't want to automate everything. Of course, there are some things that we want to have that human touch and that might need some human discernment. That's perfectly fine. But you probably know what I mean. There are a lot of little things that we're constantly doing and that many of us just hate doing. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And if you have any questions, feel free, drop them in the chat wherever you are. I'll try to keep track of the chat, but since there are multiple networks, I might not see them all. So just let me know if you have any questions and we'll dive right in. So what are a few of the most common things that we see clients struggling with in regards to repetitive tasks? One of the big ones is, like I was saying at the beginning, data capture. One big example of this is data that comes from processes. So I gave the example of the contact forms, contact submissions, lead capture, that sort of stuff. That's very common for some businesses, but there are other businesses that people walk in. Maybe you have an auto shop, maybe you have a nail salon, maybe you have, I don't know, there are many different types of businesses you have that people actually walk into the business, and you're not doing so much online lead capture, but rather people are coming in, they're buying, etc. And in those types of businesses, sometimes what you need to automate is more of the actual delivery of that, the flow. So some businesses like some service-based businesses that are /service/product, where perhaps you're printing shirts or doing any sort of manufacturing within that flow, you need to keep track of all those processes. And again, many times you're just using 1, 2, 3, 4 different spreadsheets, one to look up the product data that you get from your supplier, another one to look at the orders that came in the last day or the last couple of minutes, another spreadsheet where you might have information about the process and where it is and is it in the factory yet and what are they doing. So we see a lot of people just managing this on spreadsheets, which is fine. And you might have been doing this for 20 some years, and that's okay up to a point, because before maybe that was the only way that you managed to figure out how to do. And again, it's perfectly fine because that's what spreadsheets were originally made for, to keep track of things, maybe to do financial projections or other things, but it's a program, an application that gave you that flexibility to not have to do it by hand and have something where you can have some formulas, even maybe some VLOOKUPs and go more advanced into the spreadsheet world. But now with technology where it is, there's so much more than you could do with the current tooling that is out there. And that's what I want to talk about today. Just give you some context into what is possible, just taking it from the basics and then maybe getting a little more advanced into what a business owner might want to do. Let's talk about the spreadsheet world. So the spreadsheet world is very, very big in business. And it's funny, I just got a comment from Mike Carlo, who's very big in Power BI. Hey, Mike, I have so many boring tests in my company. Yes, I bet you do. And we do as well. I don't know why Riverside doesn't give us the chat right here. We have to talk about Restream a little more. I have Restream over here, but just for TikTok and Facebook. But anyway, it looks like it gave me the notification, so I'll keep tabs on that one there. Mike Carlo is a, very, very good, I don't want to say guru, but he's very good at the Power BI thing. So if you ever need anything Power BI related, he's your guy. Anyway, the spreadsheets, for some people, that is their database. That's what they use. They don't have some other system. And it might have worked and might still work, but think about some of the things that you're doing. And I recently was talking with someone that owns a car auto shop, and what they were having to do, and this might depend on your country and what your banks give you access to and things like that, but they have to do this process every day. Here you go. So basically they have to go in multiple times a day into their bank system, download a spreadsheet or download a PDF, get all the transactions, start copying them over to a spreadsheet where they keep all their balances. And then from there, they have another spreadsheet with all the different expenses and the suppliers and things like that. Now, imagine if you could automate that part. So there's going to be limitations based on the systems, banking, etc. Again, many different countries, so it might vary. But for some, there are endpoints or webhooks that they allow you to just hook into, which means, in just basic terms, that you can receive notifications anytime a new statement comes out, for example, or when there's any transactions. Take Stripe, for example. There's integrations for Stripe where it could just let you know every time a new transaction comes in. It's a payment, if it was captured or failed, etc. And then you can have a little automation that grabs that, gets all the information, and then goes into your multiple spreadsheets, staying in the spreadsheet world, and automates bringing that data in, doing the matching, and then perhaps just putting it in another table for you so everything is nice and ready. So you don't have to be doing that manual copy and paste that it's really error prone. You're doing it yourself, you're doing copy paste, you might get distracted, the mouse might click on something that's not the right one and you have to cross check. It's just a lot of work. And so if you automate some of these tasks, you can sprinkle on some AI if you want for some little aspects of cross checking and verifying, but you don't really need to use AI for a lot of this. It's just mostly automations, it's scripting, if you will. And a lot of people are experts at spreadsheets and doing scripting, and that's fantastic. But for the regular business owner, that's not a reality. And so what these tools like N8N, Make.com, Zapier, and other tools like them allow us to do nowadays is to, with a drag and drop interface, start doing these sort of connections and managing, I'm getting data over here. I want to push it over to this side. I then want to push it over here. I want to make some matches and find what it is. And then, I don't know, even feed it into another spreadsheet. So if you want to keep using spreadsheets, it's fine. It's just, it'll take away that manual task that you're doing every day, multiple times a day, of copying and moving things over. That's a very basic example, but I know it resonates with a lot of people because a lot of businesses, again, you still use spreadsheets for most of their work, which I will talk of another subject that actually Mike and I were talking about the other day on the show, which is these, and I mentioned that yesterday also, the possibility of having these sort of micro applications that you just use when you need them, or even just creating these micro applications that you use for your business. And I'll talk about that a little more in a little bit, but I just want to put that out there because you can use your spreadsheet, that's fine. And I'm going to show you what else you can do if you want to sort of stay in that space without having to go and actually build something. And that is going to be something like Airtable. If you don't know what Airtable is this nice little tool that allows you to build sort of a spreadsheet. You can have multiple tables in it, but instead of just being cells, like a spreadsheet where you put text in, they could be all sorts of different types of fields. I might be able to open it up here actually. I don't know if I'm going to share the screen, but just to give you an example of the types of things that you can put in these tables, it's really amazing because it's all drag and drop. It's all like, if you can use Excel, you can use this. And it has formulas and things like that, and some other advanced like agents. We'll get to it. But anyway, when you're building the fields themselves, you get all sorts of nice things like, okay, I'm just going to create a field here. I'm not showing the screen, but I'm going to explain it because I know some people are just listening in the car and things like that. So you can have a single line text field, obviously long text. So they're the same as Excel, right? You can have an attachment. So you can actually insert a file into it. You can have checkboxes. You can have multiple select, which are like chips, if you will. Single select. You could link to a user, specific user of the system. You can have a date field, a phone number field, an email field, a URL field, a number field, currency field, percent field, duration. These are all type checked basically. So obviously not the single text ones, but it's great because they have specific types of input. So if you're entering phone numbers, if you're entering percentages, you no longer have to be like, oh, do I enter it like 0.02 to make a percentage, things like that. It's just the field is just set up that way. And so it gives you a lot more flexibility for calculations, for formulas, and just the outright input of the data is so much easier. And so you've got rating, formula, of course, roll up, that's a dynamic field. You've got counts, lookups, for those of you who love the lookups, and obviously who created it, auto numbering, barcodes, and even little buttons. So why is this so exciting? Because again, if you're doing everything in your spreadsheets, imagine having a spreadsheet, but instead of just having text in them, you have these actual fields. Sometimes you need to reference an image that you have in your, some people just have a Dropbox and they have everything there. And then they're manually putting like, oh, well, this is where it's supposed to live, right? Over here with something like Airtable, and it doesn't have to be Airtable, it could be whatever, but these types of tools are very powerful because you have everything deep linked within it. And so your users can be browsing the table, they can make adjustments, they can enter data, they can then click and something will trigger another thing. And that's the beauty of it. You can have automations where once, I don't know, maybe you have a single select thing, and when you change the status of something from pending to queued, then that pops up in the table that the factory has access to. And then the factory is like, ooh, and now they see only the items that are queued, and they can go in and they start processing it. They move it to the next step. Then someone else in the process can see it, and it's all within the Airtable. And it's starting to sound like a full-fledged ERP or even a production system. And it could be. And that's the power and the beauty of this, that you can just build similar to what you're already doing, probably on paper or on spreadsheets, but in a system that's yours. You're just putting everything here, but you don't need to build a full application. You're just organizing the data, and again, something that everyone can do in a way that's very easy to use, very easy to get the data, and then to have automations that run on it and just save you so much time. So this is sort of the next step above just using spreadsheets, because these then can have views. You can create reports on it. You can create dashboards. You can have little forms that people can use. Maybe your employees go out in the field and they have to enter some data and take a picture. All that can populate into the same thing and everyone can see it. And then you can have user access and restrictions so that some people see some things and some people see other things. So again, just bringing that everything you're doing on your spreadsheet into a better type of spreadsheet. Still same interface if that's what you like, or you could use forms or different views and interfaces specific to this sort of flow. So great tool. They've now got their Omni, I think it's called Omni tool, that it's sort of an AI agent that allows you to tell it what you want. So I invite you to just like get a free trial and try it out. Tell it like, this is what the data I have in my sheet, this is what I use it for, blah blah blah, and it'll create the whole table with the references and the connections to other tables, etc., for you. And you can just make adjustments if you need to, but it's pretty accurate at doing that sort of thing. And then I know I teased it a little bit, but there's this, they have this new agents feature. And so for those of you who do like your whole prospecting or lead flow within your process, you can have it have agents per row, which means, let's say you have your spreadsheet, and just for kicks, let's say you have first name, last name, email, company name, and then you have more information about more fields about information about the company, but maybe you don't have that information. So you could start populating the things you do have, because maybe you got it from a list. So you maybe have the email, you have the company name, and that's it. Well, the agents, the row agents, could then go and asynchronously, like on their own, they start doing your enhancement or aggregation of data, and it can go and fetch information about the company, their website, and things like that, and put it back into your spreadsheet automatically just by you creating these rows. So it's really powerful, and that is not even touching creating additional automations like NA10 and Make.com, etc. It's just everything contained inside the Airtable, which is great. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. If you like what we're talking about here, we also have the Web Talk Show podcast. You can find it on all the podcast platforms, Spotify specifically, obviously Apple Podcasts. It's on YouTube as well, and some other networks. So if you like listen to this type of stuff in the car, then by all means follow us there. Give us a thumbs up. Really appreciate it. And if you have any questions right now, please, from what I see from Mike's message, I can get some of those, at least a notification in the LinkedIn one. So if you comment on LinkedIn, I'm sure I can see it. And if you comment on YouTube, I think those come through in Riverside as well. I don't think I see the other ones. Well, maybe Instagram if I open that tab there. But anyway, that is how streaming works. So I teased a little bit about some of the other things you can do. And this is maybe a step above just going into something like Airtable. And should I talk about a step earlier? Yeah, let's talk about a step before. So let's say you don't want to move to something like Airtable because you want to keep your spreadsheets and you love your Google Sheets or wherever you host them. That's fine too. And maybe there's privacy concerns or whatever, or you just don't want to host your data somewhere else. You just want it on your Google Cloud. That's perfectly fine. So what we've done for a lot of clients is that they keep their data in their spreadsheets, but we then use NA10 or Make.com to create these automations that work within that data. So an example was like the Stripe one. That's a real one that we've done, where we get transactions from Stripe. They get received by NA10, which then puts them into a spreadsheet. And then it goes and looks for the customer in another spreadsheet. This is all company-based things. We're not inventing anything else. We go into another spreadsheet where we can find the customer that's mapped to that email. And then we can put the entry and link that person to the other one in the different spreadsheets. Then from there, we can map it to, let's say they don't have a big database or a proper database for their products and things like that. Well, we can read the line items from the Stripe based on the SKU. And so for that, we can then go and query another spreadsheet that might have all the supplier SKUs And once we have those, then we can reference pricing, things like that, do any sort of calculations. And so we can create sort of a master list of things to send, which can then go to your different teams that might be handling the logistics, for example, and they will just start seeing, oh, new order, new order, new order, new order, and it will have what the line items are, what the address is, who it should go to, what the cost should be, what the receipt should have, and all that thing. If it's paid or not, and if it's pending payment, it should notify someone else, etc. And you can still do that with your same spreadsheets, and we're just moving data around. For those of you who don't have like a proper e-commerce type solution where you can take orders and take payments directly, and you're doing it more of the offline kind of deal, you can do it too, because we can create these email parser agents that when an email comes into that company email, the orders email, it can read through it, grab the information that it needs, understand what they're ordering, what they're asking for, and then take that information and put it on the other spreadsheet. So there's a ton of things you can do to make your process more streamlined. Going back to, let's say you just want to use spreadsheets, but you use them not so much in the order process, but more in the fulfillment or production. Well, instead of having to move data from, and this, I know some people do this, you have one spreadsheet with the sheet that has everything that is in a certain status, and then they copy it, and then they move it to another spreadsheet that has the different status, like in production or phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then that is the spreadsheet that someone else sees. Well, you could automate this as well and have it, when you change something in one of the rows, have it detect, oh, there was a change in a row. What changed? Oh, the status changed. Then let me move that over to the other spreadsheet. So you can save so much time if you can just start thinking, what tasks am I doing every day that are boring because I just constantly just have to do them, and they're not difficult at all. It doesn't take any brain power. I'm just moving thing A into thing B. Those are the sorts of things that you want to start automating, because it'll give you more time to be with your family, have fun, do more fulfilling things, or just focus on tasks in the business that really require a human more than, I mean, just a computer that could do it. And we went from doing everything by hand to then using computers and spreadsheets and things like that. And now these tools allow us to create these automations. And of course, then you could take it further and do like really custom advanced extraction of data and data warehousing, all that stuff. And that's where someone like Mike comes in. But I mean, there's so much you can do. And going back to, I know I left you hanging there with what would be the next step. Well, that's where it's really fun. I was talking about this yesterday. If you really want to get out there, you can build these micro tools that do exactly what you need them to. So when before you would need to purchase a license, usually really expensive license for Salesforce, NetSuite, SAP, Oracle's offerings, etc. Not only is the license expensive in many cases, the implementation is very expensive, the consulting is very expensive, and everything has to go through this whole process, and it's very slow, and many of these projects fail, unfortunately. Not all of them, and I know people that do this, the actual implementing, and it's perfect for a certain type of business. But there are small businesses and medium-sized businesses for which it doesn't work because their flow is completely different, and so they're having to fit themselves into a box that does not match what they're actually doing day by day. And I've seen it, and I've seen people just cancel projects outright in the middle of it 6 months in because it wasn't going to work for their team. So with what's available now, you can create these micro tools that do exactly what you need. Even based on your same spreadsheet, you just create an interface on top of it, or you could create a real database on it. You could use Airtable, whatever. But people like us, or maybe even someone on your team, can literally go in, use something like Cloud Code, and generate an application that does exactly what you need it. So if you're used to capturing these types of data and the order flow happens this way and it's very particular to your business. Well, now you can just tell these LLMs, this is what I need you to build, this is what it should look like, these are all the fields that I use, this is how the data moves, etc. And it'll actually build the whole interface for you. And like I said, I mean, don't do this at home, right? Like they say on TV, I don't want you to break things, but you could try it. It's a good prototyping experience, I think, for people to just try it out and see what comes out, and then you can hire someone to do it because you're worried about your data integrity and all that. But even as an exercise, it's fantastic because you can see the possibilities. And then you can call us and say, okay, yeah, look, I built this. And people actually come to us like that. They say, oh, I built this thing on Bald.new, or I built this thing on Replit. And it sort of works. It already does sort of what we wanted to, and it looks the way we wanted to, but now we want to make sure we're doing it the right way. So you can do that process as well. It's sort of like you're building your own mock-ups. And imagine that. You're just squashing in the time that it would take for a full design and implementation round with a software company. From a project being 6 months, 1 year or more, it could just shrink down to a couple of weeks of you just experimenting with it and then talking with someone to actually help you implement the thing. And then we're seeing builds in 4 weeks, 6 weeks instead of, again, 6 months, a year, or whatever. And these tools end up being used and adopted way more than the traditional bigger tools, just because they fit into exactly what the company needs. So you don't need to add all the crazy features. It's just like, I just needed to do this, and this very well, and I'm set. And that's what we've been seeing a lot. So I wanted to share our experience in how we've seen the whole landscape evolving. And if you feel you're in sort of stuck with systems that might be a little old fashioned, or you feel there's a lot of errors in data capture, or it's just straining your team doing these repeated tasks, then reach out to us. There's a lot we can do. We can talk about it and see, like, okay, so you can automate these things. You can adjust how you're moving the data. You can use this other type of system. You can build out something specifically for you. So it's a lot of fun just seeing what's possible. And this whole AI stuff, I mean, love it or hate it, it's not going away. It's just going to keep evolving, and it's going to keep helping people do things faster. Now, we don't want it to just override our brain. We still want to use our heads and our creativity, because it just doesn't have that at the moment. And I think that's where the real value is. If you can hand it off all the repetitive and boring tasks, then you can focus on the real tasks, the creative ones, and the connections and the networking and all that. And it changes, well, for many people, their whole way of enjoying life. So it's really good. I think of it like, you know how they say, don't hire a babysitter, hire a house manager. And I know it's not like in every circle, but I've seen it in some posts. And some people might pay for a babysitter, but others might say, no, I'd rather be with the kids and enjoy it and help them grow and mature and enjoy that short-lived part of time, and hire someone to do the busy work. So why? Because otherwise I'm the one that's doing the cleaning and everything else, and then someone else is with the kids, right? So I think it's a good analogy to this sort of stuff, where you can hand off these boring tasks so you can focus on the important things, where you actually have to use your brain to make a difference. So anyway, just want to share some of this stuff. Remember, if you are interested in hearing more of this stuff, you can follow us here on all the different networks, depending on where you are. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You can find the Web Talk Show at webtalk.show as well. It'll just take you directly to the Spotify page. You can follow the show. Give us a thumbs up if you like it. And if you don't like it, then let us know as well. So if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. If I don't see them right now, after the live stream is over, I still look at all the comments and I'll reply to them directly. So thanks a lot for joining in today, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.